there, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining me for this week's reflection. I'm Susan Short, and I have the good fortune of serving College Lutheran Church in Salem, Virginia, as the Director of Music Ministries. And I certainly do hope that you're making plans to join us for worship this Sunday in the sanctuary or online. Service will begin at 10 a.m. And just a quick reminder, the daylight saving time begins at 2 a.m. on March the 14th. So before you crawl into bed Saturday night, be certain that you spring your clocks forward, or you'll find yourself running just a little bit late for service in the sanctuary. I think you probably know what hymn we're going to take a look at this week. It's My Faith Looks Up to Thee, and it's actually the communion hymn that we'll be using as a part of Sunday's worship. So you can find it in our Cranberry hymnal, our ELW, hymn number 759, or in our green hymnals, the LBW, and it is hymn number 479. So we continue to think about movement during our Lenten journeys with one another. Several weeks ago, we were talking about walking. Last week, we talked about turning and twirling. And today, looking up. So let's take a moment to learn more about this hymn and the hymn writer, Ray Palmer, as well as the tune writer, Lowell Mason. So Ray Palmer is probably considered one of the American's finest 19th century hymn writers. He was born in Little Compton, Rhode Island in 1808 and died in Newark, New Jersey in 1887. He attended Yale and was ordained in 1835. He served as a pastor of congregational churches in Maine and in New York. This hymn is believed to have been written immediately after he had graduated from Yale, and it would have been in 1830, so Palmer would have been about 22 years old. He wrote these words while he was employed as a teacher at a private school in New York. He experienced a very difficult year filled with illness, isolation, and loneliness. It was inspired to write this verse 1 one evening after meditating on a German hymn that depicted a sinner kneeling before the cross of Christ. He later stated, "The words for these stanzas were born out of my own soul with very little effort. I recall that verse 1 was written with tender emotion. When writing the last line, 'O bear me safe above a ransomed soul,' the thought that the whole work of redemption and salvation was involved in those words brought me to a degree of emotion that brought abundant tears." According to hymnary.org, Dr. Lowell Mason, the degree was conferred to him by the University of New York, is justly called the father of American church music. To him, we owe some of our best ideas in religious church music, elementary musical education, music in the schools, the popularization of classical chorus singing, and the art of teaching music. More than that, we owe him no small share of the respect which the profession of music enjoys at the present time, as contrasted with the contempt in which it was held a century or more ago. In fact, the entire art of music, as now understood and practiced in America, has derived advantage from the work of this great man. Mason was born in Massachusetts in 1792 and died in New Jersey in 1872. Ray Palmer and Lowell Mason met by happenstance at a conference in Boston in 1830. Mason had asked Palmer if he had any lyrics that could be inserted for a document or publication that he was working on. It was called Spiritual Songs for Social Worship, a compilation that was being prepared by Mason and Thomas Hastings for publication that would be written over the next couple years. So Palmer actually handed Mason his leather book that contained the words to this poem, My Faith Looks Up to These, and it originally had 6 stanzas. So the two men allegedly walked into a shop so that Mason could grab his transcript of Palmer's words. And it wasn't until he arrived home that evening that the four stanzas that were read, that Mason immediately wrote the tune called Olivet, the only melody that has ever been performed with Palmer's poem. Palmer believed his hymn flourished since it embodied in appropriate and simple language that which is most central in all true Christian experience, the act of faith in the divine Redeemer, the entrusting of the individual soul to him entirely and forever. So let's just take a moment to look at the 4 stanzas of this hymn. This hymn is considered a hymn of prayer. In stanza 1, the song asks for forgiveness. Now hear me while I pray, take all my guilt away. Oh, let me from this day be wholly thine. Stanza 2 focuses on purity of love. Oh, may my love to thee pure, warm, and changeless be, for divine guidance in stanza 3. While life's dark maze I tread and griefs around me spread, be thou my guide. And stanza 4 asks for safe homecoming into glory. When in life's transit stream, when death's cold sullen stream shall over me roll, blessed Savior, then in love, fear and distrust remove. Oh, bear me safe above a ransomed soul. Ray Palmer certainly gives us a lot to think about, and it is said that Lowell Mason once told Ray Palmer, and I quote, "You may live many years and do many good things, but I think you will be best known to posterity as the author of My Faith Looks Up to Thee." I've included a recording of this piece by a flugelhorn trumpet player whose last name is Herman, that was set to a series of photos that have come from a number of our national parks across the United States as well as Canada. And I do hope that you'll take a moment to listen to it. In addition, I've also inserted a link to a recording by the Concordia University Chicago Wind Ensemble under the direction of Richard Fisher. So I've also given that for you to enjoy over the next couple days. So thank you very much for joining me for this week's reflection, and I do look forward to worshiping with you on Sunday. Do continue to take great care.